4:13, the rebellion put down. Chapter 4. Now was a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, saying, Your servant my husband is dead, and you know that your servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor has come to take my 2 sons to be his bondmen. 2. And Elisha said to her, What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? She said, Your handmaid has nothing in the house except a pot of oil. 2. And Elisha, 3. And Elisha, and then he said to her, Go, borrow for yourself vessels from the houses of all your neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. 4. Then go in and shut the door upon you and upon your sons, and pour out into all these vessels, the vessels which is full, bring up to me. The vessel which is full, bring up to me. 5. So she went from him, entered her house, shut the door upon herself and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. 6. And when the vessels were full, she said to her son, Bring me more vessels. But her son said to her, There are no more vessels, and the oil has stopped. 7. Then she came and told the prophet of God, and he said, Go, sell the oil, pay your debt, and live, you and your sons, on what is left over. 8. And it came to pass in the morrow, Elisha went and came to Shiloh. There was a wealthy woman, and she constrained him to eat food, so that whenever he passed by, he turned in there to eat food. 4:14. Elisha performs miracles. 9. And she said to her husband, Behold, I perceive that the prophet of God is a holy man who passes by us continually. 10. Let us make for him a little upper room, and let us set for him there a bed and a table and a chair and a candlestick, so that when he comes to us, he shall turn in there. 11. And it happened on a certain day, he came there, and he turned in to the upper room and lay there. 12. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, Call the Shulamite woman. And when he called her, she stood before him. 13. And he said to her, You have shown us all this respect. What is to be done for you? Is there anything to be spoken on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army? And she said, I dwell among my own people quite well. 14. Then he said to her, What shall I do for her? And Gehazi said to him, Verily, she has no son, and her husband is old. Uh, 15. And he said, Call her. When he had called her, she stood in the door. 16. And he said to her, About this season you will be with child, and shall embrace a son. And she said, No, my lord, a prophet of God, do not lie to your handmaid. 17. And the woman conceived and bore a son at the season that Elisha had said to her. She was with child. 18. Now when the child had grown, he went out on a certain day to his father, who was with the reapers. Don't fear the reaper. And he said to his father, "Oh, my head, my head." And his father said to a servant, "Take him up and carry him to his mother." 20. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then died. 21. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the prophet of God and shut the door upon him and went out. 22. Then she called to her husband and said, "Send me one of the servants and one of the asses, that I may go hastily to the prophet of God." 23. And he said to her, "Why will you go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath." But the Shulamite gave orders. Mm-hmm. 24. Then they saddled an ass for her, and she said to the servant, "Drive fast, do not stop to dismount me unless I tell you." 25. So she went to the prophet of God at Mount Carmel, and when the prophet of God saw her afar off, he said to Gehazi his disciple, "Behold, there is the Shulamite." 26. Now run to meet her and say to her, "Is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with your child?" And she answered, "It is well." 27. And when she came to the prophet of God to the mountain, she caught hold of his feet, but Gehazi came near to remove her. And the prophet of God said to him, "Let her alone, for her soul is in bitter anguish, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me." 28. Then she said, "Did I ask a son of my Lord? Did I not say to you, do not ask a son for me?" 29. Well, then he said to Gehazi, "Gird up your loins and take my staff in your hand and go. If you meet any man, do not salute him, and if any man salutes you, do not answer him, and lay my staff upon the face of the child." 30. And the mother of the child said, "As the Lord lives, and as your servant lives, I will not leave you." And he arose and followed her. 31. And Gehazi went on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child, but there was neither voice or hearing. Therefore he returned to meet Elisha and told him, saying, "The child is not awake." 32. And when Elisha came into the household, behold, the child was dead and lying upon the bed. 33. He went in therefore and shut the door upon the two of them and prayed unto the Lord. 34. And he went up and lay upon the child and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands, and stretched himself upon him, and the flesh of the child became warm. 4:15. Elisha performs miracles. 35. Then he returned and walked to and fro in the house, and went up and stretched himself upon him, and the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. 36. And Elisha called Gehazi and said to him, "Call the Shulamite." So he called her, and when she was come to him, he said to her, "Take up your son." 37. Then she went in and fell at his feet and bowed herself to the ground and took up her son and went out. 38. And Elisha returned to Gilgal, and there was a famine in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said to his disciple, set on the great pot and cook porridge for the sons of the prophets. What is pottage? I can't remember now. Porridge is a porridge. A stew. A soup or stew. Okay. "39. And one of them went out into the field and gathered together herbs, and found a wild vine in the field, and gathered from it in his lap full of wild gourds, and came and put them into the pot of pottage. For he did not know what they were. 40. So he poured out for the men to eat. And as they were eating the pottage, they cried out and said, O prophet of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat it. 41. But he said, take meal and cast it into the pot. And he said, pour out for the people, that they may eat, and there is no harm in the pot. 42. And there came a certain man from the city of giants, and brought the prophet of God bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, new wheat rubbed from the ears in the cloth, and he said, give to the people that they may eat. 43. And his servant said, what should I eat? What should I eat this before 100 men? And Elisha said to him again, give them to the people, that they may eat. For thus says the Lord, they shall eat and shall live some. "44. So he went and set it before them, and they did eat and left some, according to the word of the Lord." Now Naaman, chapter 5. Now Naaman, general of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance to Aram. And Naaman was a valiant man, but he was a leper. 2. And the Arameans had gone out raiding, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. 3. And she said to her mistress, blessed would be my lord if he would go to the prophet who is in Samaria, and he would immediately cure him of his leprosy. Goddamn leper. 4. And they went in and told her Lord, saying, thus and thus said the maid who is from the land of Israel. 5. And the king of Aram said to him, come, go, I will send a letter to the king of Israel. And he departed, and took with him 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of garments. 6. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, and And this was written in it. In the hour when this letter reaches you, behold, I have sent you Naaman, my servant, that you may heal him of his leprosy. 7. And when the king of Israel had read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man sends me a man to heal of his leprosy? Wherefore consider and see how he is seeking to pick a quarrel with me. 8. And when Elisha, the prophet of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king, saying, Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. 9. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariots, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. 10. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall come again to you, and you shall be clean. Verse 16. Naaman cured of leprosy. But Naaman was angry and went away and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place, and I will recover from the leprosy. Tuavana, Amnan, and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel. I will go out and wash in them and be clean. So he turned and went away in a rage. 13. And his servants came near and spoke to him and said, O Lord, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, you would have done it. But behold, he has told you to do a small thing. Go and wash and be clean. And he listened to them and did so. And he went down and 14. He went down and washed 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the prophet of God. And his flesh came again like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. 15. And he returned to the prophet of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him and said to him, Behold, now I know there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore take this blessing from your servant. 16. But Elisha said, As the Lord lives, before whom I stand, I will receive none, and urge him to take it. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. 17. And Naaman said, Shall there not then be given to your servant for 2 mules burdens of earth? For your servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offerings nor sacrifice to any God but the Lord. 18. In this matter may the Lord forgive your servant. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, I am the king's aide, and I worship also in the house of Rimmon. And when I worship in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon your servant in this matter. 19. And he said to him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. 20. Then Gehazi, the disciple of Elisha, the prophet of God, said, Behold, my Lord has spared Naaman the Aramean in not accepting from him that which he brought. But as the Lord lives, I will run after him and take something from him. 21. So Gehazi ran after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he alighted from his chariot to meet him and said, Is all well? 22. And he said, All is well. My master sent me, saying, There have just now come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 men of the sons of the prophets. Give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of raiment. 23. And Naaman said, I am willing to take 2 talents. And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver and 2 pieces of cloth with 2 changes of raiments, and gave them to his 2 servants, and they carried them before him. 24. When they came to a secret place, he took them from his hand and put them in the house, and they sent the men away, and they departed. 25. But he went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said to him, Where have you been, Gehazi? And he said, Your servant went nowhere. 26. And he said to him, my heart told me when the man alighted from his chariot to meet you. And he said to him, my heart told me when the man alighted from his chariot to meet you. Is it a time to gain money? And to gain garments and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and men servants and maid servants? 27. Therefore, the leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave to you and to your descendants forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow.
Unwind from the grind. This
Chapter 6.
is chill.
And the sons of the prophet said to Elisha, behold, now this place wherein we dwell with you is too small for us. 2. Let us go to the Jordan and cut from there every man a beam, and let us make a place for us to dwell there. And he said, go. 3. And one of them answered and said, if you please, go with your servant. He answered, I will go. 4. So he went with them, and when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. 4:16 was Naaman cured of leprosy. 4:17 more miracles. 5. But as one of them was felling a tree, the axe head fell into the water, and he cried and said, I beseech you, my Lord, it was borrowed by your servant. 6. And the prophet of God said to him, where did it fall? And he showed him the place. And he cut off a stick and thrust it there, and he stuck it in the hole of the axe head. 7. And he said, take it up to you and put it out of his hand, and put out his hand, and he took it. 8. Then the king of Aram warred against Israel and took counsel with his servants, saying, in such and such a place we shall lie in wait. 9. And the prophet of God sent to Israel, saying, beware, you must not pass this place, for the Arameans are lying in wait. 10. And the king of Israel sent to the place of which the prophet of God told him and warned him about it, not once, not twice. No, not once, nor twice. 11. Therefore the heart of the king of Aram was sore troubled because of this thing, and he called his servant and said to him, will you not show me who of us is for the king of Israel? 12. And one of his servants answered and said, none of us, my lord or king, but Elisha the prophet who is in Israel tells the king of Israel the thing that you plan in your bedchamber. 13. And he said, go and see where he is, that I may send and take him. And he told him, behold, saying, behold, he's in Dothan. 14. Therefore he sent their horsemen and chariots and a great army, and they came by night and surrounded the city. 15. And when the servant of the prophet of God rose early and went out, behold, an army surrounded both the son of the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, alas, my master, what shall we do? 16. He said to him, fear not, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. So Elisha prayed to the Lord, 17, and said, O Lord, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. 18. And when they came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, smite this people with dimness of vision. And he smote them with dimness according to the word of Elisha. 19. And Elisha said to them, this is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. 20. When they were come to Samaria, Elisha said, O Lord, open the eyes of these men that they may see. And the Lord opened the eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. 21. And the king of Israel said to Elisha when he saw them, my father, shall I slay them? Shall I slay them? And he answered, you shall not slay them. Would you slay those whom you have taken captive with your sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. 23. So they prepared for them a great banquet, and when they had eaten and drunk, they went to their masters. So the raiders of Aram came no more across the border to Israel. 24. And it came to pass after this, that Bar-Hadad, king of Aram, gathered all his army, and went up and besieged Samaria, and fought against it. 25. And there was a great famine in Samaria, as they besieged it, until an ass's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. A pint, a dry measure. 26. And as the king of Israel was passing by upon the wall, there cried a woman to him, saying, Help me, O Lord, O my Lord, O King. 27. And he said to her, Let the Lord help you. Whence shall I help you? Out of the threshing floor, out of the winepress? 14. Famine in Samaria. And the king said to her, What troubles you? And she said to him, This woman said to me, Give me your son, that we may eat him today. And we will eat my son tomorrow. 29. So we cooked my son and ate him. And I said to her the next day, Give me your son, that we may eat him. But she has hidden her son. 30. And when the king heard the words of the woman, he tore his clothes, and he walked upon the wall, and the people looked, and behold, he was wearing sackcloth upon his flesh. 31. Then he said, May God do so to me, do so, and more also to me, if the head of Elisha, the son of Shaphat, remains on him this day. But Elisha, 32, but Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him, and the king sent a messenger. But before the messenger came to him, he said to the elders, Do you see how this son of a murderer has sent to take away my head? Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door and push him outside, because the sound of his master's feet is behind him. 33. And while he was still speaking with them, the messenger came to him and said, Behold, this evil is from the Lord. Why should I pray to the Lord any longer?